Folks, this is my friend Leigh Steinberg, of course, legendary sports agent, and his history is well known. But I'm talking with Leigh about a problem, and it's with Hope Solo, who's been arrested, allegedly for domestic violence, and she's, as we speak, in jail in King County Jail. It's a very sad situation. But without any further ado, in terms of the story, Leigh, you've had situations like this, I would guess. If you were Hope's agent, how would you handle it? If you got the call from her, what would you do?
I think the first issue for someone like Hope Solo, outside of her safety, is always going to be her brand. So that she was someone that had a big impact when she was part of our Olympic soccer team, and because she's tall and dramatic and has a great name. For all these reasons, she's very popular and she has endorsements. When companies do endorsements, they're trying to get a transference of the positive image that the athlete has onto that product so that consumers will buy it. So very often in all the contracts that they might sign in endorsements, there are behavioral clauses that allow the endorser to back out. So here's what I do in a crisis situation like this. You first have to make a determination that whatever the legal problems are much less damaging, because even if they sustain the charges in this situation, as first-time offender, she most likely gets probation under some circumstance. So while the lawyer would tell you, don't say anything, what I would tell an athlete is this. First, gather all the facts so you're absolutely sure what happened, who saw what, and all the rest of it. Then, very quickly, get out there and make a statement that, first of all, accepts responsibility. I behaved badly, I did this. Second of all, defines what the right standard is, which is I should never be involved physically with using my fists because I'm angry, whatever it might be. Then, apologize to the relevant constituencies. So for her, that might be soccer fans, it might be general public, it might be people in Seattle. And then, lastly, show that you've taken steps to prevent a recurrence. So that this is not just talk. I'm going to go to an anger management type of program. I'm going to get counseling, whatever it is that indicates to the public that this person's sincere, realizes they have a problem in this situation. Now here's the problem, Jenny. We have a repetitive news cycle now, which is made up of blogs like yours, network television, cable television, endless amounts of websites, endless amounts of talk radio, endless amounts of magazine coverage. And they're all dedicated to one concept, which is interesting people. So when an athlete crosses over at a narrow genre of just hardcore sports fans knowing her, become a household name, then like every other celebrity, this is fair game. The problem is, you take Donald Sterling, for example. So he makes a horrific statement. But if he had come out the next day, before that tape had run hundreds of times, and we all heard it and saw it hundreds of times, and said, you know what, I heard the words I said, I can't believe they came out of my mouth, it's not reflective of the way I feel about racial relations in this country or blacks, I'm desperately sorry to my players, my staff, the people of Los Angeles, Clippers, and the other NBA owners, and I'm going to see Reverend so-and-so to talk this out. very likely he escapes everything that happened later. Instead, he did a bunch of other things. But the first thing he did is he delayed too long. And they even knew it was coming prior to the Saturday that it broke widely. So in Hope Solo's case, what she doesn't want to have happen is this now to run day after day after day and have fans hear this news not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 10 times, 15 times. Because then what happens is an average viewer says, this is not one aberrational situation. But after you've heard it 10 times, it creates the impression in your mind that whoever this person is drunk and violent all the time.
Yeah, that's happening on Twitter already. That's a great point.
So the point is that you need to move quickly in situations like this. Not at a panic, because then you may skip some facts. You don't want to be out making a statement and then have it contradicted by something later that comes out. But her battle is not the minor consequences that would occur in court. Her battle is with her being a golden American girl who's a great athlete, who seemed to be a great person, and now this comes along. And so if she can get out there before we now have the repetitive news cycle blast this out, then the American people just, forgive. So we know that they love to follow the high and mighty, but then they like the comeback story.
Do you think it says anything that first she hasn't come out with a statement, and second that she's being held without bail? I thought that was the most shocking aspect of the story.
The without bail is very shocking because there's nowhere she can go.
Right.
In this country or around the world. She's like 6 foot tall or taller. Mm-hmm. She's got recognizable features. She's not going anywhere.
Right. She's not a flight risk.
Something may have happened at the arrest where she continued to be violent. The only thing I can think of is that the shock of all this. I mean, if she was heavily drunk, and this was supposed to have happened Friday night?
Yeah, she was arrested early this morning. And
okay.
According to Lieutenant Mike Murray, she was argumentative, and that he said she was really intoxicated. A male had called 911, said that a female was walking around at this huge party that she had thrown, hitting people. And then when they went by, witnesses pointed to her and said that she was the female, not identifying her by name if the report is correct, and that she hit her half-sister Terry and her half-sister's son. And I don't know if it was really maybe just some reckless play or whatever, that maybe was perturbated because she didn't cooperate with the police or what. It kind of sounds like...
See, that part of it is leads you to believe something happened in terms of her either being violent, her still not being... there's a certain amount of hours that a jail has to keep you after you've been arrested for drunk driving or drunk anything else. They're not going to let you back out there, so it may just have been leaving her system. The first thing that happens in this is Annie is shocked. Whatever she did and whatever her condition was, still, you go behind bars and you're sort of in shock. Now, I get a phone call and I get a lawyer in there, but the worst thing to ever do is to stonewall this situation and think somehow it's going to go away. Because we have investigative journalists and very persistent press that will, as Tiger Woods, will take this to the end of the earth. And so it's, she's done a lot for this country, a lot for women's soccer. I hope that this just is some minor aberration, and she goes on. Obviously, when alcohol is involved, the judgment center of the brain turns off. So it's a sad situation, but that's the basic damage control agenda. Get out there, fast, take responsibility, apologize.
It begs the question: should she have put out something now because no statement has been released?
Here's the thing: the attorney in the situation. If you use a defense attorney, well, let's say I'm not doing that, acting as an attorney that way,
right,
wants the cleanest slate possible with no admission. Because they're trying to get the charges dropped. They don't want the person to say, yes, I had alcohol in my system. They want to be able to argue that something went wrong with the testing, something went wrong, somehow there was a technical or procedural problem. But in the case of my clients, that never mattered. Yeah. Because the truth was that if an officer stopped them for drunk driving or arrested them in a domestic disturbance sort of situation, the fact they were in it in the first place was enough. It's really sort of hard to deny or reconstruct the facts. So the point is, I'm just giving you the dynamic that the defense attorney says, give me the cleanest slate possible, don't be admitting things, don't be explaining what happened, you let me do the talking. And what I would say to my client is, you know what, that horse is already out of the barn. Seasoning, what you don't want to have is hope so low, violence, hope so low, drunkenness, be associated over and over and over and over again. Because then it's a difficult situation. But that's how you would deal with.
I'm glad you said that, because already the New York Post reported that this is her second time being arrested for domestic violence, and I know that's not true. This is her first time, but they put right up there in big letters again, and I thought, whoa, here we go.
Anyone can write anything or post anything, and one of the problems with some of the people that are writing today and posting is they don't have journalistic standards.
Right.
So they don't make the second call, they don't do the due diligence.
And that's the New York Post.
The person never escapes it.
That's the New York Post. So
this is where we're at, because among other things, forgetting what happened originally, there are a whole series of people in this society that don't feel all that wonderful about themselves, their station in life, how they're doing, their marriage, their job, and it seems to bring them satisfaction when someone of prominence has a weight problem, has a marital problem, has a financial problem, has a drug problem, has an alcohol problem, and that's sort of where we're at.
Why are we there? I mean, not to get off the track too much, but I mean, there's a related question. Why are we at a point where we seem to delight in the fall of people? Is it that we see their highlight reel on social media so much, and we get a message maybe that people are doing better than we are that's false, false positive? I mean,
tabloidization of news. In other words, you never would have thought you'd come to a day where Lindsay Lohan going to trial leads the news in Los Angeles, or Kim Kardashian getting married. It's celebrity news. It's an attempt to show the American people that no one thinks they can actually digest anything that's in depth. It's what happened with the USA Today, where stories get shortened. It's quick pops of stimulation, quick pops of energy of media that for people who have a very short attention span. Economic times are also tough in this country, so you get a natural residual. And then there are people who, for whatever reason, don't like soccer, don't like athletes, whatever.
Now, I don't want to close because I know you're a busy man. But first of all, tell my viewers, since I can actually tie that in right about here, how's Garrett Gilbert doing?
Garrett Gilbert's doing fabulously well. And
congratulations.
And We've gotten very good feedback from the Cardinals. Now, he's been there basically from the Monday following the draft in May until now. And I don't think he goes home for a week more. So he's been there the whole time, which is a great thing. And I'm telling you, Zane, I've spent 40 years representing franchise quarterbacks. He will start for somebody one day. And as I've said to you before, people couldn't see him clearly through the prism of Texas.
I read that the Raiders were considering drafting him and took Derek Carr instead. And I thought...
So what happened was, we were pretty sure that the Raiders would take Garrett in the 4th round. But everything assumed that Derek Carr would be off the board in the 1st round. And when he didn't go, I mean, there were people who had him going 9th in the draft. When he didn't go, Oakland just had him sitting there, and you know, their quarterback situation is a start Matt Schaub, who had great success in the past, but Schaub's getting a little older, even if he's proficient, and I don't know all the circumstances in Houston, but this is the critical position, franchise starting quarterback. So later the Raiders said that he was the top quarterback on the board. And if that's true, they got to steal.
Wow. Oh, and before we close, how do you think the Donald Sterling situation is going to turn out?
I think it's all basically resolved because the league and union, all of them worked in concert with Shelley Sterling to make that sale happen. There was nothing particularly urgently pressing because the old CEO, Richard Parsons of Time Warner,
right,
is running. Now, this is a massively experienced, intelligent leader. Mm-hmm. So they got that in place because the draft comes up on Thursday. And now my own sense of it is that attorneys and other people being paid to keep this alive around Donald Sterling may not be serving him real well.
You think he's going to are you saying he's being put into play in a sense?
I don't know what his mental state really is. I mean, according to the LA Times, there were 2 doctors that thought he was in early Alzheimer's. His wife used that to take control of the group. But if what he wants is a legacy, then his best move is to let all this die down and come back with an impressive apology statement, whatever, and then let some time run. And then things pass. They went in to try to get an injunction against him, I think yesterday. Mm-hmm. No, Thursday. His wife was being harassing phone calls and the rest of it. Can you imagine putting yourself into his shoes? From the day it hits, he's completely insulated. Where were the bright people in the Clipper organization saying, this is toxic stuff? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or they anywhere along the line giving him advice? So when he finally does come out, it's a long meandering interview with Anderson Cooper, some of which gets him into much more trouble.
That was disaster.
The point is that this is, to me, a death rattle. It's like the last embers of the Sterling Empire trying somehow to do something they will not be able to do, which is resurrect themselves. His best move would be, to take his share of the $2 billion, give a gift if you feel guilty to African American charities in Los Angeles, mm-hmm. More than something. People forgive. People forgive. He didn't kill anybody. He just he just touched the third layer of grace, and he put the whole NBA into jeopardy with their television contracts, with their international relations, with their own players, with everything. So you can't have that. But the reality is that had he not had the Elgin Baylor situation,
right.
And had he not had the federal judgments for discrimination, it might have played out differently.
Mm-hmm. So do you think, we'll close then, basically, if he gets all of this private eye information, does it really make a difference?
And so that would be on who?
Yeah, I don't know, Mark Cuban?
Look,
I can't imagine.
Many people who make prodigious amounts of money in this society have skeletons.
Mm-hmm.
They may have romantic problems, they may have alcohol or drug problems, they may have made their money in a way you and I would find objectionable. They may have terrible labor practices or have been convicted, but somehow they passed NBA scrutiny.
Now,
and
go ahead,
there's a finite number of franchises in this country and an infinite number of people that have millions of dollars. And so they got approved. So this is all just sideshow.
Yeah.
A new owner will rebuild the Clippers. Remember, on the price. In January this year, Forbes valued the Clippers at $575 million. 5 months later, they sold for $2 billion. Dr. Eagle, $2 billion. So it's like, really, and so allegedly there was another offer at $1.5 million. So it's like the guy at the live auction at the banquet you go to, where the bidding's going on back and forth, and it's $5,000, and it's $6,000 and $7,000, and all of a sudden he says $20,000. Well, it's his money. It's a tenth of his income, Mr. Ballmer. And Donald Sterling needs to just let this die, and then he's got a chance to repair his legacy.
Closing question. Do you think Hope So loses her sponsorships? She's got some great ones. Samsung.
So there's a clause in every one of those
right.
that has to do with public behavior. They're written very differently. Some of them are really broad and amorphous, where an arrest is enough to knock you out, or just being able to make the case that whatever you've done is unpopular or statement. So this is why she should come straight out with an apology, so that it just doesn't end up that way.
Leigh, I know you're about to get the hook from your friend, so thank you so very much. And this is going to be up in minutes. And thanks again. Appreciate it.
Okay, Danny, take it easy.
All right, you too.
All right.